I'm all set.
The light is on, and now we're on the air for the world to see. It's my
Very
conversation
good.
with Deborah, a bi-coastal dialogue. And again, we're friends, but I can't see how she could vote for Trump. No way.
I'm an independent, all right? So it is
I
October
know
the
you're
21st.
independent. I mean, I wouldn't really care if you were Republican. 'Cause I don't think he's a Republican. He's
So how are you today? How are you today?
I'm okay.
What do you mean, okay? You're normally great. What's going on?
I don't know. I think I'm just getting a little anxious about what's going to be happening. And it's like coming up to the crucial point. It's
I look at it this way. We will survive all of this. We will survive.
I'm not sure because but I do another program on Malcolm Presents, and it's called
Sure.
Many Shades of Green, and we
Okay.
talk about the environment, and that's probably even more depressing than talking about if Trump becomes president,
No,
because
you need to move back. You need to move back here, Mr. Berman, because back here in South Carolina, where I'm now speaking, as I was a native Californian, I would be very concerned in California. But back here in South Carolina in Greenville, it's gorgeous. You actually have clear air to breathe, and you can actually drink water out of the tap, which was surprising to me because I was always married to my Brita filter in California, but not here, not here. Clean
well,
air, clean water. It's beautiful. In
it's
fact, it's right
it's
now.
the global climate, the change, the global warming, and the climate change is going to affect the world. It's not only going to affect California; it's going to be the world.
Well,
All over
you
things are
said you
changing.
said going to be yes, but there's lots of things that we can do to change. A lot
Uh,
of things we can do to change.
well, not if not if we have Trump in who doesn't believe in it.
He does believe in it, but he does believe that do it on a gradual basis. Don't do it so that we go completely into electricity so that our electricity costs would become prohibitive. And don't force us all to go into electric vehicles. Hey, did you see that GM has just now introduced a brand new Hummer, and it's unbelievable. 1,000, just it's a huge vehicle. Do you realize what the price is? $155,000. Now, the last time I had $155,000 is, let me think. Oh, I never did have $155,000.
I don't know when you were doing your mortgage company, but anyway, so but the people, the audience doesn't know, but you had laryngitis because we were supposed to do another show on Friday, and you sounded like what, Minnie Mouse, a squeaky.
I sounded like Minnie Mouse. It was not good. Malcolm, you call me and I'm like, hello, it's me. And you went, who is this? This is impossible. No, we have season change. We started to go into the 30s and the 40s now. So we brought in all of our Boston ferns, and they're all downstairs in the basement now. But in the meantime, I got a little bit chilled because I still have that California blood. I really do. So I ended up getting a little bit of laryngitis and a bit of a cold. So it's taken all the way. See, I got it on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I still sounded like Minnie. Monday, sort of. Tuesday, we're getting better. And today's Wednesday, isn't it?
Today you sound fine.
There we go. See, I'm back. I'm
Oh,
back.
good.
COVID. See,
And I
Donald
wanted to,
COVID, and we have all the therapeutics to get the COVID so that we can live with it. Same with a cold.
okay. All I know is when you're on your messenger on the phone is that in South Carolina they're having sort of like the third wave of the COVID-19, and
Well, it's interesting. We definitely are. But what everybody is looking at right now, because we've learned so much about COVID since March, we're looking at the hospitalization rate. The hospitalization rate is fine. It's staying fine. It's staying stable. So I think that's the area that we really need to be looking at, because I don't know until we get a vaccine, and when we get a vaccine, who knows? think we're going to be living with COVID-19 for a long period of time, and we can,
Well, well,
because
take a look at what I hear of South Dakota and North Dakota and Wisconsin is they're running out of beds.
Mhm.
They're running out of beds
I,
for the
I
ICU
hear,
and
I hear
ICU
two
units.
information. The problem we have, and it really does concern me, is the lack of good, solid news information. I think that the news divisions of all of these large corporations, which I used to be a part of, because I was a news reporter for 10, 15 years in Los Angeles, and I enjoyed it very, very much. But I left the business primarily because I was being told how to report things. And that's not what you do. You need to be balanced. You need to have all sides of things. And that's frankly one of the reasons I decided to do this program with you, because fairness is premium. We need to have facts. We need to have information. So with COVID and looking at what's happening in South Dakota, what's happening in Wisconsin, what have you, we need to make sure the hospitalization rate stays stable. We need to get people taken care of in and out. And if it's going to be a problem, then we need to do something very, very drastic.
Well, I think we do because in fact, the new CDC numbers were much greater as far as people who have died so far, that we've underestimated the fatalities of the COVID.
Well, my worry about CDC at this point right now seems to be twofold. It seems as though hospitals were being given an extra spiff if they would note on the death certificate that it was COVID, and they would be getting extra money. When you have an economic incentive to name COVID onto a death certificate, I have a problem with that. I really,
There,
truly do.
there are possibilities, but there's so many that, I mean, the scientists who, of course, our president listens to, and it goes according to science, say that this is a third wave and it's can be more dangerous, and also that people have contacted COVID the second time around. They've had
Very few people though have, Malcolm. And the other problem is too, that Europe is now seeing definitely a second wave. And now the World Health Organization is saying, don't do lockdowns, folks. That is not the way to handle this. Lockdown should be designed to be able to kind of reconnoiter and get your feet underneath you again and then reopen. So they're saying that these heavy duty lockdowns are not what's working. So that's
well,
coming from HWO.
I'm a believer that we don't have to have necessarily a lockdown, but we do have to take preventive methods. We do
I
have to
agree.
wear masks. We do have to have the social distancing, and
I agree.
and we do have to have the testing. And now in
I
certain
agree.
areas, there's less testing than there was at the beginning of the pandemic. And you
Well,
still,
I know in South Carolina, there's a tremendous amount of testing that's going on, and you can get tested anytime, any day. That's number one, and it's free of charge. Secondarily, my husband and
social,
I are
socialism, free of charge is
no,
socialism.
no, no, because it's something that was caused by China, and it's something that this government needs to be able to fund so that people don't have to hesitate because of a monetary situation. But we're
That's
continuing to
that's
wear
what
masks.
that's what's known as
And we're
socialism.
continuing, yeah, and we're continuing to not only that wear masks, but we are also social distancing. And once again, everybody looks at us and says, well, you're a Trump supporter. No, 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 this is not a political statement.
That's
This is a scientific statement. We are going to continue to wear these masks. We use N95 masks because as a handyman couple, which was our former business, we have the N95 masks, and we also have the regular types of masks. So depending on where we are, in fact, we just went out to have some breakfast and we had the regular masks on and it was fine. It's not an issue. It
you,
should
you,
not be
you
this
could go
flag.
to you could go to indoor dining in your
Yes.
part of the world.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
that I wanted to talk to you about, which I know very little about, is South Carolina
Yeah.
and the politics in South Carolina. Because you're one senator that I know is I'm totally against, Senator Graham, Lindsey Graham.
Now, why would you be against a state senator who in fact represents the state residents and does not represent you there in California? You have your own representative.
Well, yeah, but he's 1/50th of the in the Senate that makes the laws, and
And you have
influences a
49
lot of
other
the other
senators that can
Republicans.
balance out. And you have 49 other senators that can balance him out.
Yeah, except they don't. They all follow like little what is it, lemmings that following the Trump, following McConnell. That I mean, as far as I know, you listen to the news. If you've seen what Lindsey
Yeah.
Graham said 4 years ago about the personality of and the abilities of Trump, and what he said and how he views him now, and
Now,
how
Malcolm, you
yes.
cannot tell me that in 4 years that you have not changed your mind on a whole variety of issues. Now, can you say that?
No, I have changed, and I've tweaked things, and I've come around different ways.
Of
But
course.
I was never, the same way I felt when Trump first ran. I agree more now that
Well,
he
interestingly
didn't have
enough,
the he didn't have
well,
the
interestingly enough, when Lindsey Graham was running against Trump and when Trump was running, we really didn't know what we were going to get. What I was interested in was I liked his business acumen, and I liked the fact that he understood business. My concern with politicians, many who have not been in business, is they've never had to meet a payroll. They've never had to work with employees. They've never had to make a profit. And that very much concerns me. Normal, everyday Americans have to make a profit. You have to make a profit. In fact, what's interesting is, I'm glad you brought this up, is that the Heritage Foundation, which is out of Stanford, I've printed their entire 59 pages of their analysis of Biden. And as an independent voter, and I still am an independent voter, I must remind you, it concerns me about, they're talking about the long run impacts of regulation, taxes, and spending under the Biden plan. As far as I'm concerned, I don't know that I can afford President Biden. Can you? Because we're looking at this point right now, basically an extra $546 per month based on the information that these folks have come up with in terms of the things at least Joe Biden has indicated to us that he will raise in terms of capital gains, in terms of re-regulation, a whole variety of different things that he has spouted at this point. And when you look at the economists' reports, they're talking about a decrease in GDP of 8%. We're talking about tax rates going up, not only just for the people over 400,000, but for us middle-class people as well. Did you realize that when he gets rid of the Trump tax cuts, we will no longer have a standard deduction, which is instead of $12,000, we're now at 25. They're going to bring it down to $12,000. I'm on Social Security. I have a small pension, and I don't know that I can afford. I mean, I'm going to be looking at anywhere from 10 to 12% on a tax rate. How about you?
I haven't looked, and I haven't seen the Stanford report yet. But what I know is that the things that Trump has reduced, basically, who's gotten the major benefits of that, have been the rich, and have been the major corporations, and that we don't have enough money to operate the government. That we have gone from, I think we talked about it a previous show, from about a $12 million deficit to it's over $20 trillion now, which we leave to our children. He also is threatening to do away with the payroll tax. The payroll tax is what supports the Social Security and also parts of Medicare. And that's
Actually, it does. Actually, it does not.
So talking about us older folk, which I'm dependent upon that also.
Absolutely.
And what he's also doing with why he says, "Oh, I'm doing away with all these regulations." He's doing away with all the regulations that permit the fossil fuel, which put carbon into the air, which is part of the problems of why we're suffering this global warming. He's also doing away with the regulations about polluting the oceans and polluting the streams. So now the corporations can do that. That's what makes it more expensive for corporations to operate, because they have to abide by our law. And he has done away with the law.
But you do realize that Econ 101 basically says the more that you tax a corporation, And it's already been proven because we already looked at the very sluggish recovery from 2008, that the more that you tax a corporation, in fact, they're not going to invest in many of the productivity gains that actually end up helping lower income minorities, lower income people. Because the reason that there was, in fact, it was interesting because the report talks about it. Excuse me, let me put my glasses on here. But the report does talk about it. And once again, as a news reporter, I've got to report it. It's talking about what's called economic incidences. Now, what that means is that any tax essentially disproportionately borne by a corporation, what happens is there are now fewer full-time jobs. Fewer full-time jobs mean you're going to have more people on part employment. The reason that corporations do that is because they're being taxed to have full-time employees. So they'll go now to part-time employees. The cost, there's going to be less capital formations, less equipment, fewer plants, lower productivity, lower growth, and lower wages. That's the problem. And that's actually what happened in 2008 when we were overtaxing. And in fact, many of those corporations ended up going over to, of all places, golly Moses, China. And as you well realize, in excess of 80% of all of our pharmaceuticals come out of China. And the reason that the corporations went there is because there's a lower tax rate in China and obviously a lower labor cost in China. When Trump put those tax cuts into effect, he essentially opened up the gates to bring all of that money back from overseas into the United States. And that is the reason that you had less income inequality with the minorities, because now there is going to be more full-time jobs. And the reason that corporations needed, in fact, here in South Carolina, there were help wanted signs all over the place with BMW, with Michelin, with Fluor Corporation. All of these companies desperately needed to have people. And when you need people, guess what, Malcolm? Wages go up.
Yeah,
and that's why wages went up.
Only when you have unions, the wages go up.
With or without
unions.
With and without, because the problem is, what does a corporation need? The corporation needs to have individuals. They need to have people working. And in fact, whether you have a union or you don't have a union, those corporations have got to attract individuals, because corporation A better attract with better wages and better benefits than corporation B, because otherwise corporation B is not going to get the workforce it needs. And as a result, is not going to be as productive. So when I look at the report coming in from, of all places, the Heritage Foundation and Stanford University, it kind of turns my head quite a bit, because what I want to see is I want to see real live facts. We're simply not getting the real live facts from the news media. And it really concerns me, because as a former news reporter, my job, my mission was to give people the facts so that they could make up their minds.
Well, don't you listen?
Getting it. We're not getting that in
Fox. Don't you listen to Fox and Hannity? And
I listen to everybody. I listen to everybody.
Dobbs.
I listen to everybody. It's important that you listen to all of the news media.
Yeah, which I do also, which I'm worried about. I'm worried about all these people that live in the suburbs, the housewives. That if Biden comes in, it's the area is going to go berserk, and the cities are going to be rioting, and he's going to let
and who is rioting? Who is rioting?
All the cities. They're going to be. It's going to be.
But who are the individuals,
New York,
Malcolm, that are rioting?
Detroit, Los Angeles. I mean, we're totally out of control. That if you listen to them,
but the problem is, who is rioting?
And we're opening up the borders. The poor people. The poor people. The poor people of color.
No, actually, who it is we have the same thing we've had in a number of years. We have anarchists that are causing trouble, that are burning down businesses. And the businesses are actually burning down.
Right. I'm not defending. I'm not defending anarchists, but there's a difference between anarchists and protesters. Most of the protesters, I'd say, like, I'm not sure the percentage, 80, 90% of protesters that we see are doing for a cause. They're not doing it because they want to do away with our government or burn down businesses, and most of them are not burning down businesses. It's a small minority which we have to take care of, but all our people on the right are lumping everybody together. If you're protesting, therefore you're an anarchist.
They're not doing that. I have to say they're not doing that, because bottom line is there are not peaceful protests going on in Portland. There were not peaceful protests going on in Minneapolis. There were not peaceful protests going on in Seattle. And in fact, the latest quote unquote peaceful protest was a pro-Trump protest that was then attacked by Antifa protesters.
Oh, Antifa. That's where the FBI said that Antifa is not a terrorist organization.
It doesn't make any difference who these individuals are, but what they're doing is that they are committing violent acts. And what really concerns me as an independent voter, listen to me say it, is that I'm sorry that one political party is not condemning the violence. You can't have the burning down.
Well, the Democrats are, if you're talking about, the Democrats are condemning the violence, but they're not condemning 100% of the people that are protesting.
And neither am I.
But a meeting point. I don't know if you've seen the Sam Elliott commercial.
I haven't.
During the the actor Sam Elliott with that beautiful,
of course,
deep tone.
Yeah.
And he says, rivers don't know politics. Forests don't know politics. It's a way of bringing people together instead of separating them. The problem is, no matter what Trump says, all his rhetoric is dividing the country. It's making it.
I don't know how you can say that when in fact there's other political parties that are now dividing us among races. I don't agree with that. I don't agree. In fact, there's some universities now, and I believe is at the University of Maryland, is teaching a course now on how to get rid of your whiteness. What the devil does that have to do with anything? I happen to be white. Is it my fault, or is it your fault that you are white?
Well, according to them, I'm not white. I'm Jewish. That's not white. That's a separate
minority. And that's even more concerning. That is even more concerning, because you start to see the cancel culture, and you start to see the condemnation based on the fact of beliefs. We need to have dialogue like we're having dialogue here. We truly do.
Oh, definitely. There has to be a common ground.
Absolutely.
The common ground is, as I said, we all are Americans. We all are. We're aside from being Americans, we're all our people. I'm more of an internationalist. I mean, because as I see it, even from my short 70 years on Earth, the world has become smaller and smaller. Just that we could do this type of show on Zoom, and you're in South Carolina. I do one with California, New York, Chicago. It's that we could do this. I could pick up the phone, and get I can't get Moscow, but I can get Europe.
I hope not.
I get you. Well, I'm not. I could say, hey, this is Donald calling.
Sure.
But the world is
already been disproven. The Russian thing has been disproven, for God's sake.
No, it hasn't. It's been disproven by because Bill Barr said no collusion, no collusion. But if you read the report, I know you probably have. But
I have.
It hasn't exonerated Trump from doing anything. But let's see what happens.
Well, bottom line is, and let's get on to the next elephant in the room, and that's the whole situation with the Hunter Biden laptop. I'm through all of the information that's on the Hunter Biden laptop, because apparently a lot of it is becoming now salacious. Because in fact, the FBI agent who got the laptop was in fact, unfortunately, a child pornography FBI agent. So I'm not going to jump to any conclusions. However, the FBI did have that laptop for who knows how long, apparently
since last year, they said.
And the problem at this point right now is that everyone is jumping to the conclusion this is all Russian misinformation. Now, once again, let's follow the science. Oh, at this point, let's follow the director of national intelligence. And that director of national intelligence actually gives information to Representative Adam Schiff, for example. And he has said there is no Russian misinformation here. This is not Russian misinformation. That has now been also collaborated with the FBI. FBI now yesterday released the fact it is not Russian misinformation. All that being said, Joe Biden needs to answer the question, because I remember on one of our earlier programs, we talked about the fact that we are losing standing with the international community. How much standing are we now losing if we're now showing for the fact that we are now, as the United States policy is now up for sale? And that concerns me. And I deserve some answers from Joe Biden. And the only answers I'm getting is, well, let's see. The reporters are asking, what kind of ice cream do you have, Joe? Oh, we have chocolate and vanilla, but I plan on mixing two of them together.
Joe Biden has been a public figure, a politician, what, 46 years. And that 46 years, aside from the implications now of his corruption, there has not been one single scandal that has been exposed with Joe Biden in all those years. I won't go into Trump because we don't have enough time to get involved with his scandals and what. But right now, the FBI has had that tape for, I think, about a year. It was sometime, I think in November of last year, they got it. At that time, there was the intelligence had said that basically Russia was trying to infiltrate, give us false information to screw up our politics. And so far, there hasn't been anything proven that the tape is real. And it's sort of like it's sort of like implications. It's like when Trump retweets a
Malcolm,
Facebook
stop.
that says, "Oh, I don't."
I gotta have you stop. It has been proven that is Hunter Biden's laptop. They're the same number that is on that receipt from the Macintosh repair place.
Biden calling up.
The exact same number that the FBI has in terms of that laptop. There's correspondence there. My concern at this point right now is that we don't have necessarily Russian misinformation, but we also have, at least it's showing at this point, and it concerns me, Chinese information, and we're seeing possible collusion and a purchasing of US policy by China and trying to influence Joe Biden. And that really concerns me. And we're seeing that. Talk about a problem. I mean, what's interesting is, did you realize that the Global Times, which is the CCP, which is the Chinese Communist Party, the Global Times said of Biden 2 months ago, that he would be quote unquote smoother to deal with than Donald Trump. Yeah, no kidding. Because if you have a business deal with Joe Biden, and I got to tell you, I know this from personal experience. Remember, I told you the story about how my late husband, Tom, and I went over to Hong Kong, and we were there. We were supposed to be there only for a week or so. We were, in fact, there for 1 full month, all expenses paid by the Hong Kong, but essentially the Chinese. And we were made an offer. I gulped. Because as soon as the offer was made, Tom and I looked at one another. We went back to the Mandarin Hotel where we were staying, very exclusive hotel that they were paying for. And I said, you realize what this means. You realize what they've just asked us to do. They've asked us to launder money. They've asked us to launder drug money. And we cannot do that, no matter how much money they pay us to stay, because we could never go back to the United States. And I have to tell you, that is an absolute profound situation that happened to us. And now when you look at this is the way the Chinese deal. They realize that Americans can be bought, and we've got to show them that we cannot be bought. We've got to bring our supply chains back here to America. We have got to make sure that we are protected from the ambitions of a China who says they want to replace us as world domination. They're communists. They're communists.
Yeah, well,
And that's Jesus out of us.
economically, they're capitalists. There's
Exactly. Not exactly.
there's a different. No, they have corporations. They have businesses.
They have
in
corporations
China.
that in fact do not even adhere to basic accounting standards. And once again, I can only say that from personal experience. Now, the other thing that's very interesting is the fact that when you are working with the Chinese, you must have a personal recommendation to be able to open up bank accounts, et cetera, et cetera. And I have to tell you, Hunter Biden had it. So did, apparently it looks to be, and I'm waiting for this information to come through, John Kerry's stepson was also involved with this.
And
So we
by
have
the
a
way,
very difficult situation. Does that bother you? Does this bother you?
well, it bothers me to the effect that the information had been available for a while, and that the information had been debunked. That had been, saying that
It
it's
hadn't been
Soviet
debunked. It had been basically tucked away.
well, and what you
We're
said is
asking, why has it been tucked away?
the quote that I got from the FBI. It says today they said we do not comment on any ongoing, situation.
Investigations?
Yeah,
Investigations.
the FBI.
So they're now investigating it.
And what I doubt, who now, I have to find out who said that from the FBI, and whether he is appointed Trump, whether he's was appointed by Trump, because right now he is controlling, all the organizations, and the CIA, even the FBI director who he appointed, is talking about this misinformation. But the last information that I heard, by the way, there was something today that I heard on, of course, MSNBC, that they discovered, some bank accounts for corporations that Trump owns, that in China, that he has savings. I don't know if it's savings accounts or business accounts in China. But going back to the original thing that we're talking about, it's an international world. There's no way that we could put up walls, we could put up borders, we could put up and not have not be influenced by the rest of the world. We have to learn how to live with everyone.
But we don't need to be taken advantage of. We don't need to have our trade secrets taken. We don't need to be basically selling our souls, as the Chinese are asking American corporations to do. We don't need to be doing that. We don't need to be having Chinese scientists, actually Chinese planting in Harvard, for example. They had one of the top Harvard chemists that has been convicted of being a Chinese spy. Once again, we owe a loyalty to America. You realize that what the Chinese Communist Party wants, they want world domination. I would prefer to have world domination by a democracy.
So should we ban all the Chinese scientists from coming here or working here, or being?
That's going way too far. But we have to be aware, and we have to be smart about this, Malcolm. And I don't understand why you wouldn't be concerned about this. We need to be concerned. We need to keep our eyes open. China is not an emerging nation anymore. They've already made their ambitions evident.
But we have to work with them. It's not that we have to be.
No. We are working with them. And in fact, the new trade agreement that Trump had put together, they are starting to buy the soybeans that they so desperatly need. So we're starting to trade.
I have to see.
Are we done with our 30 minutes already?
We're done with our 30 minutes already. And I didn't, I gotta turn this thing off. Okay, and I didn't even get into what I really wanted to talk about, because I'm tired of talking about Trump versus, Trumpers versus non-Trumpers. I want to talk about politics in South Carolina, and also about.
We'll talk about it. How about on Friday? We'll talk about it on Friday, because I have lots.
But also, I wanted to talk about the Cracker Barrel. We were talking on the phone the other day about this place that you can sit around and talk about politics or whatever, over some crackers and maybe a glass of beer or wine. And I want to talk about that type of lifestyle. But anyway, we'll go back Friday. We'll come back Friday. And
We'll see
talk
everybody on
about-
Friday.
And we'll talk about the debate.
Yes, we will.
That-
Well,
that-
Malcolm, as always, it's delightful. We may disagree,
It's been,
but we're talking.
we're talking, that's it. Anyway,
We're talking.
say goodbye to fish.
Oh, I will.
Well, you fit, what you say, your fish and your chickens and your cat.
All
Bye.
right. Bye-bye.